Hey friends, this is Pastor Joe from Southwest Lutheran Church, and I'm here with some discipleship thoughts and a recap from our worship this past Sunday, April 16th, where we talked about everlasting life. The very last message in our Apostles' Creed message series. We've been talking about this since January, believe it or not, but here we are at the end, and we have everlasting life that we get to talk about. Resurrection life, new creation life that Jesus brings us through his death on the cross and his resurrection, and he promises to make this resurrection, everlasting life complete on the last day when he comes again. And so as we talked about this, if you remember, we said sometimes the church has had an issue. When we talk about everlasting life, sometimes we focus on everlasting without the life. And we imagine that our Christian hope is this disembodied spiritual existence after death. But that's not really a biblical hope. Because a disembodied spiritual existence may be everlasting, but it is not life. In fact, it is everlasting death. And so we want to keep our focus on resurrection and new creation. And at the same time, we've had a problem the other way. If we imagine life and we focus on that without also thinking of everlasting, right? And the everlasting part is what is beyond ourselves, something that we can't do, but the Lord himself can do. If we just focus on life without the everlasting part, then indeed what we have is like a social gospel, focusing only on what we can do here and now to make things better. And while, of course, we should be trying to make things better in here and now, the real Christian biblical hope has to be something bigger than we can do. It's something that only God can do. And so when we get these things together, it is everlasting life. Resurrection life, new creation. And to get at this, we reflected on Isaiah chapter 65 and the very beginning of chapter 66. When we saw Isaiah's vision of a new creation that is so good, a new heavens and a new earth. It is both cosmic and centered on the people of God, and it's so good that the old things won't even be remembered anymore. That's good news for us. So what do we do with this? Well, we talked about how really what God intends for us is lives of abundance. We see that in the original good creation. And one of the reasons, well, not one of the reason why our lives are so hard today is because of sin and the problems that have come into the world through human sin. If we want to start living as new creation people today, then what we can start doing is focusing in our everyday lives on three areas that we learned from David Kinnaman and Mark Matlock in a great book, Faith for Exiles. And we call these abundance, order, and beauty. When we work on abundance in our lives, this is farmers, this is construction workers, this is manufacturing, this is entrepreneurs, this is hustle, right? Everything that we do to provide for ourselves and for the people around us. And order, right? That's science, that's medicine, that's making order of the world. A doctor keeping the good bacteria in and the bad bacteria out with certain medicines. That's an example of order. Or also not just scientific and medical, but also, say, legal, right? Judges producing justice in the world and giving order. That's another kind of order. So taking care of the world as God intended us to. That's order. And then the third thing we talked about was beauty, right? Creating beauty because God creates a beautiful world and he calls us to create with him within the world. Whether we're talking about children, creating people, or creating beautiful things. And we think of art, we think of music, we think of design, we think of architecture, we think of all the things that people do to create beauty in the world because God creates beautiful things. He creates beautiful people. And so we create beauty as well. And so our take home, at least my take home, from the idea of everlasting life is God is giving us everlasting life and we get to start living into that everlasting life even today. And one great way we can do that is by thinking about ourselves as people who bring abundance, order, and beauty into the world in our everyday vocations, whether that's at work, at home, or in our neighborhoods. And we also can mentor people around us, whether they are young or old, to help them also see their work as bringing abundance, order, and beauty. It helps gives meaning to what we do. It helps gives a purpose to what we do. And to see that we're not just out there earning paychecks. We're not just out there surviving day to day, but we are God's own image in the world. We get to rule this world because that is what God created us to do. We do that as best we can today, even though we struggle with sin, but we look forward to everlasting life and new creation when we get to rule the world and bring that abundance, order, and beauty without all the bad stuff that holds us back even now. So that's my thought. That's my lesson. I'd love to hear what you take from new creation, everlasting life, all that sort of stuff. What are the lessons you're taking? What are the questions you have? Feel free to leave those in the comments. Feel free to reach out to me directly. I'd love to talk. So, hey, until next time, take care. God bless. Have a great day.